All right. Good morning, everybody. Thanks for being on the Zoom, and for anybody watching on YouTube, thanks for tuning in to another edition of our Member Spotlight. We've got two great coaches today, Omega Tandy and John Plefka. So we're going to start off with Omega. Omega, what's up? Good morning.
What's up? Good morning, guys. Thank
How are
you
you
guys for
doing?
tuning in. I'm doing good. Doing
Good.
great.
Good. So, all right. Good morning, everybody. Thanks for being on the Zoom. Technical difficulties. Sorry, I had to mute my YouTube page, which was up as well. So, Omega, let's tell us a little bit about kind of how you got started down this path of coaching.
Yeah, I played basketball in Indianapolis, Indiana. I'm from Indianapolis. I played at North Central High School, then went on to play at Duquesne University in the A-10. Was able to transfer to Cleveland State University, go Vikes. And I think my passion for coaching really started when I was at Duquesne. We played Temple. And at the time, Don Staley was coaching Temple's team. And I watched her interaction with her players, the way her players responded to her, the way she responded to them. And I wanted that. I had never had that in a player-coach relationship. And I just thought, man, I could do that one day. Maybe I could do that. And I think the seed was planted then. When I graduated from Cleveland State, I was able to get on a really good basketball staff at the high school level, Ben Davis High School in Indiana. We were able to win a state and a national championship. And that's where it really grew, that I felt like I could coach, and that this was a calling and passion for me. And so that kind of has just led me down the road. I got my first head coaching job as an interim head coach in high school, was there for a year before I was able to go to a Division I, University of Evansville, and coach as the assistant coach and recruiting coordinator there. It's where I met Aaron Sennett, and that was a really good experience, a lot of learning I did during that year, and then was contacted about another head coaching opportunity in Indiana at the high school level again. And my husband and I have 3 children at the time. My daughters were really young, and been at the high school level gave me that time to be home with them, but to still coach. So I was there for 2 years before I was contacted by Garden City Community College, and to be the head coach at Garden City. So we moved out to Kansas, had a mid-season, my season ended in the middle of the year. And so I landed at McMurray College, which is a Division III in Illinois, as associate head coach, and was able to continue to coach throughout the year. Now Mac closed at the end of May. And so, we're kind of in transition right now, interviewing for some head jobs at the NAIA level, just kind of waiting to see what happens. So that's kind of my journey to get to where I'm at right now.
Yeah. Okay. Lots to talk about. Let's start with that first interaction. Like you mentioned, watching Don Staley coach her team at Temple. Did you ever reach out to her and tell her about, the impact that had on you?
I did. When I was at the University of Evansville, she had a conference, really small conference. It really was for high school coaches, and it was Empowering Women Through Sports is what it was called. And so I flew down to South Carolina and sat through her clinic. And after the clinic, I got a chance to talk to her because there was only maybe 13 coaches there, which was great. And I was the only collegiate level coach there. So I told her, everything, all of my success, I really do count, give her credit for a part of it, just because that passion for the way she leads her players, I strive to be that way. And so I got a chance to tell her. got a picture of that, which is great, that conversation. And, we haven't been able to build a relationship since then, but she definitely is one of my greatest inspirations.
Yeah, that's awesome. So you kind of mentioned that you've been at like so many different levels: high school, Division I, JUCO, Division III. What's the difference between each level? What are the different things you take from each level? Let's start with that.
You know what? And I think it's dependent on too where every coach wants to be. Like I always felt like I could be a head coach at some level. I didn't know what level or whatever, but I feel like that. Some people have an assistant coach spirit, and I just have a head coach spirit. And so the high school level gave me the opportunity to really sit in the seat. And to be honest, it's so transferable. Sitting in that head coach seat at the high school level, especially in a state like Indiana, being prepared for what is going to come when you're a collegiate coach. I mean, just the professional development and just the conversations, the budgeting, the your connection with the media, your public speaking. I mean, all those things really, I felt like prepared me. So I like the high school level for that reason. I did not like the no shot clock. I did not like having to not being able to recruit. I don't like having to do all that. So I would prefer the collegiate. I do prefer the collegiate level. I thought the junior college level was very similar to the Division I level. Obviously not budget wise, but as far as level of competition, we prepared just like it was a Division I team, just because that was my playing and coaching experience. And so I really enjoyed the junior college level. I do think that the junior college level, for me as a relational coach, doesn't give me enough time to really, like, I love to be in with my players. I commit and invest in lifelong relationships with my players. And so 2 years is just not enough time for me. That's just my preference. But I love the competition level. I love the recruiting. I love everything else about it. The D1 level I enjoyed. I think that it just really depends on, especially if you're an assistant coach, who you're working for, and really knowing and making sure your morals and values align with who you're working for at that level. But I loved the D1 level. I loved the way the resources and what we were able to do. I love scouting at the Division I level. I love the amount of talent that you get to coach. And it really helped refine my skill every day, because everybody is so good that you're playing against. And so I enjoyed that level too. I don't have a preference. Again, like I said, I'm interviewing at NAIA level 1 because that's who's calling me. But I think that, the Division III level was competitive too. I guess not having scholarships is a little different. And the kind of kids that I want to be able to recruit, I think I'm going to have a little bit more money to give them. So, it's been great at each level. I've enjoyed a lot about every single level that I've been at.
Omega, you said head coaching spirit is something that's in you. Pull on that thread a little bit more. Like, what do you mean by head coaching spirit?
I think naturally, and this is okay. And here's the other thing. I think a lot of times, especially in this business as women too, but even with the men, people shame you for feeling like you're a head coach. Like, that's okay. If your spirit, if your talent, if your heart is in leadership, there's nothing wrong with that. That doesn't mean you're not going to have to be an assistant to get there. It doesn't mean that maybe your road is to take assistant jobs and then you can prepare yourself for it. But I always knew and felt like I could run a program. And that's okay. And so I'm entertaining right now some assistant coaching opportunities, but I think being able to have the impact that I believe I can have in the head coaching seat, and really setting my programming around what I believe in, my moral beliefs. I'm really big on leading assistants to become head coaches if that's what they want to be. So I really want to be able to be in a seat where I can pour into 3 people every year and prepare them for some of the things that I may not have known when I got in the head coaching seat. That's one of my passions, is really helping assistants get prepared. I can't do that from an assistant seat. And so the kind of kids I want to recruit, the kind of kids that fit me, that I want to be able to impact from a head coaching seat, I can recruit those kids. So I guess that's what I mean. I think the way I would like to have Omega's impact on the game, I feel like it's more prepared for a head coaching seat at some point. Doesn't have to be today, but at some point.
And so you've had a couple cracks at being a head coach, a couple at the high school level, and then at Garden City Community College in Kansas. I do want to talk more about Garden City specifically, but also, like, do you feel like you learn more and more each time you get put in that head coaching position?
Absolutely. It's so different every time. And to be honest, I learned more in the head coaching position in the high school level and at the junior college level than I ever did as an assistant, because you're in charge, and my people questioned me about that. Like, when I left D1 to go to be a head high school coach, why would you get out? But I didn't feel like I was getting out. I felt like I was getting relevant experience. And for me, it worked. And so I just challenge everybody to follow who you know you are, and don't listen to what everybody else says, because honestly, it prepared me more to be a head coach than it would have if I had stayed and been an assistant.
Yeah, I love that. Okay, talk a little bit about the Garden City experience. Obviously, it was short-lived. It only lasted, half a season. What did you learn from that experience?
a couple key things. One, Garden City was my dream job. I wanted to be a collegiate head coach. Garden City called. I mean, I was thrilled. The Jayhawk conference is one of the toughest conferences in in junior college, and our budget and everything was great. I mean, it really fit me there. One of the key things I learned is in hiring. You know, when you take over a program, I think we all have head coaches have a short list. Some of the people in Rising Coaches are on mine just from watching and paying attention to people. But you have to show up to the as the head coach, you have to show up to the college or the university and understand the culture, because as much as fit is important for the head coach and the players you recruit, is so important for your assistants. And I had never hired assistants who didn't automatically just buy in and believe in me and my vision for the program. And so I got in a situation where one of my assistants kind of got in trouble with HR, and they made the decision to terminate him. And then the other assistant at that point decided he was more qualified for the job and wanted the attention of admin and of the players. And so the business is so cutthroat. And one thing that I wasn't prepared for is that our business, even though it's supposed to be relational, we have to always remember that it's cutthroat. And you have a lot of people that are not always in it for the same reason, which is another reason I enjoy the head coaching seat, to be able to choose who's around you. And so I learned a tough lesson in really hiring the best fit for where you are and the best fit for who you are as a head coach. And then I learned, especially if I go back into an assistant seat, how important it is for me to make sure I believe in that head coach. I believe in their morals and values. It's not just a job. And I think a lot of times in our business, men or women's side, everybody's looking for the next job and not really considering who you're working for or with and how important that is, because you want to enjoy this every day. And so I was let go. I resigned at semester because of my response to one of the actions of my assistant. But I'm so thankful for it though, because I grew a lot. I have now head coaching experience at the collegiate level under my belt. All the ADs that I've spoken to, none of them, and when I give the detail about it, it doesn't run them off. So, you know, it's good practical experience again, being in that seat. And so, you know, that was my dream job. I loved it. I absolutely loved it at Garden.
Well, I appreciate and admire the fact that you're so open and willing to talk about that experience. I feel like, I mean, if you coach, you're going to lose your job at some point. It's going to happen to everybody. But the natural reaction for most, and I've been there certainly, is, you know, you do kind of go through like a little grieving process, and there's embarrassment and shame in losing your job. And a lot of times people don't talk about it, and it does become this weird thing that people want to brush over. But then it looks even worse, you know, like.
And then it looks worse. And that's what I had to learn, especially, okay, so let's just be honest. I'm a Black woman. It's my first collegiate head coaching job, and I'm fired at semester. Now the narrative says resign, but people don't know what that means. I could be stealing money. I could have been, you just don't know what it is. And so I wanted the opportunity to be able to control my own narrative. My AD at Garden is a huge supporter. He calls everybody on my behalf. He will hire me again today if he could. But I did go through that grieving period of being shameful, being humiliated, just feeling, not good enough. Did I make a mistake in going to the collegiate level? But that's not what the purpose of that season was. Really, that purpose was for me to be prepared for that cutthroat part, because I wasn't prepared for that. I was blindsided. I just thought, everybody's good. You know what I mean? You just think that people believe in you, you give them an opportunity to come work with you, and that's how that goes. And it's just not, and that's okay. Because now I have a little thicker skin, and I can handle that in the future. So anybody, if you ever, need to talk about things like that off, because I'm telling you, a lot of coaches go through it. Once I went through it, I found out how common that is in our business. And I had no clue. Nobody had told me. And so those are the things that we need to talk about as coaches that maybe people don't prepare you for. But it's that hiring is so important. It's key. It's either pass or fail when it comes to hiring, for sure.
Absolutely. So after your experience at Garden City, you go to McMurray College with our friend Chad Harmon, and the school shuts down. So one thing after another. And I think this was before COVID even hit, right? There were plans to close the school before. So now you find yourself in a similar situation where you're on the hunt again for another opportunity, which we're super confident you'll find sooner rather than later. But how's that whole? I mean that's a hard thing to go through, needing to find a job in coaching, let alone this off season where there's been so little movement.
Especially when there's been so little movement, especially when you have children in a family, which is another challenge for when you're a woman in the seat. And then especially when you've been fired that semester. So it's like the deck is stacked, feels to be stacked against you. But again, we have to be confident in who we are. We just have to be confident that it is a business. And if you're doing the right thing the right way and you're doing right by our student athletes, it's going to come back around. And, I just have to continue to fall back on my faith and the fact that I know I'm a good person and I have high moral integrity. And so it's going to happen. I just don't know where and when. And that's the scary part, is the timing of it. But, I'm ready and it'll come. But I was thankful to land at MAC, Chad Harmon. I met him. He was the Dobo at Evansville when I was an assistant there. His wife was on staff at Evansville on the women's basketball side. And so we have a really good relationship. And when he found out I wasn't at guard, he called right away. And I was thankful because that kept me moving. And it kept me polished and sharp. I didn't just sit around and sulk. So I didn't have that time to really be super down about it because I had another team to serve. So it was a blessing for sure.
Yeah. And everything happens for a reason. I'm a big believer in it. So
it's very true.
Your opportunity will come for sure.
I appreciate it.
Well, I want to open it up. If anybody has questions for Omega, I want to give people an opportunity to ask them. But while we kind of prepare for that, anything kind of in closing that you want to say? Or I know we definitely want to talk about the foundation that you helped found. Maybe you can tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, another beautiful thing that came through this time of me not having a team to coach, I had in my heart had been wanting to have my own foundation for a long time for a lot of different reasons. One, it seems like I'm always called to talk to teams, whether I'm coaching in college and high school teams are asking me to come back and talk to them or run clinics and camps. So I wanted to have my own foundation for that reason. But the other thing was, so I created the Omega A Tandy Foundation, but under that umbrella, we work under Honor Your Impact. It's a hashtag called Honor Your Impact. And that really was birthed in my heart when I was at Evansville. We have such a huge impact as coaches on the lives of the people who are trusting us. And I started to see over and over and over again, us as coaches taking advantage of that and really not understanding if I'm coaching a young woman and I'm saying things about her body, that's affecting her for the rest of her life. And so really I've started to work with other coaches and under that Honor Your Impact umbrella. And so one of the things that I want to see in the future is for us as coaches to really be able to connect, like, again, in those hard conversations, and how to really make sure we understand the role we have in the lives of these young people. And so that's a part of it. That's the foundation. There will be more to come on it. And I'll keep you posted. We're going to have some scholarships and things like that to give out. But that's really important to me, that all of us as coaches are honoring our impact and that we're committed to changing the lives of these young people that we serve.
Absolutely. So Honor Your Impact is a foundation. Is there a website or?
It is. It's www.honoryouриmpact.com. It's Honor Your Impact on Twitter, Honor Your Impact on Instagram as well.
Okay, great. So anybody who's interested can check out the website and the social media and get involved. And we'll certainly stay tuned for more to come with the foundation and
absolutely
figure out where you're headed next. So
absolutely.
I
appreciate it.
Journey. Well, Omega, great job.
Thank you.
If anybody has a question, now's the time. If not, we'll shift gears over to John. So let's just take a minute here. Anybody? All right. Well, Omega, great job again. And keep us posted and let us know.
I will. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Shifting gears now, headed over to John Plefka. John, what's up, man? How are you?
Are we going to breakout rooms or what? I'm ready for it.
You're ready to.
Is that not what this is?
No, you're in the wrong place, John. Sorry, buddy. The spotlight is on you. No breakout rooms. No distractions.
Good. That's okay. Good.
How are you today, man?
I'm good. Just crisis averted right there. My dog got into a little bit of a mess, so I had to run over into the kitchen. So that's why I'm sweating right now. So at least it's a good workout. That's why I have a
There you go.
towel trying to pat myself. I'm not nervous.
Yeah, I thought you were nervous. No. Okay.
No. So, but she's good. We're good to go.
Well, John, let's kind of start at the beginning. You're head coach at Post University women's basketball. But let's go back to your playing career. I don't know. I think we talked about this very briefly, but not enough. You played at Santa Fe Community College.
I did.
Which
Yes.
is the rival of College of Central Florida, where I coached.
Yep.
And cut my teeth in the coaching profession.
Oh yeah.
So we're basically bitter rivals from the start.
Really? Yeah. Actually, that was the choice I had. So between those two schools, with Coach Ryan, obviously at Central Florida, and then Coach Maury at Santa Fe. So I chose Santa Fe, and the rest is history.
Yeah. What years did you play there?
I played there in 2004.
Okay.
So just 1 year. Yep.
Gotcha. So you went from Santa Fe to Texas Tech, correct?
Correct. Yep.
And played for a coach that not many people have heard of,
No.
Bobby Knight.
Yeah. No, not this generation. I think, they don't know who that is. They're like, who is that? So, but no, I was blessed to play 2 years with him at Texas Tech. And they were coming off their Sweet 16 appearance the year prior. So a lot of expectations. And, for me, I think it just was a great fit. My style of play at that point, I was the typical pick and pop type of player, which is known as a stretch four now. But that was, our team was so talented. We didn't have the McDonald's All-Americans. We didn't have the 5-star athletes or recruits. We just fit the system really well, and we played our role well. That's why we were successful.
Yeah. And then, so tell us how you went from there and got into coaching.
Yeah. So for me, I played baseball as well. So I at Santa Fe, I was a dual sport, and I was drafted baseball by the Angels at Santa Fe. So going into my junior year at Texas Tech. So how my road went from graduation from Texas Tech in my senior year, I played baseball for 7 years after. So professionally with the Angels for a couple years in their minor league system, and then independent professional throughout the U.S., played in Canada, South America, even had a tryout in Japan as well. So kind of got away from the basketball side, but I stayed involved in the offseason by coaching at a few local high schools. I was a volunteer on the boys' side at a very small school here in Connecticut for 3 years with my buddy, and then was a JV head coach at an engineering school. Very talented players there. Hopefully you can see my sarcasm, but they were great kids, very high IQ. So that helped me in just learning a different side of the game, because that wasn't their main focus by any means. And then I had the opportunity to go back to my alma mater, New Britain High School, and coach on the girls' side as an assistant varsity and a JV coach. And I coached there for 3 years. And that's really where I found my true love for the women's game and the girls' game, because it's just different. Obviously, growing up in Connecticut, UConn is the top tier, regardless if it's the men or the women. And growing up in this state, basketball is everything. But that was my first experience, and it really struck home to me because I was at my alma mater. So I felt at home there. I felt like I was back in high school again. So I really learned a ton from our athletes. And just like the engineering school that I was at as well, here you had half your team were the star athletes that played multiple sports who wanted to play in college. And then the other half were those that just wanted to have this as a hobby. So you had to learn and teach in different ways and learn their personalities, because not everyone is going to try to go Division I. And that's what I learned right away. It's more about, teaching them life lessons and daily lessons and learning from them more so than them learning from me. So I did that for 5-6 years, and then had the opportunity to go to Post with Coach Taj Franklin, who was in the WNBA for many years. Coached for a year, learned a ton. She's a mentor to me. A lot of tough love, which I love, but we get along really well because we love wrestling. So those of you that love wrestling here, the thing that got us really clicking together. And then I was blessed to be head coach the following year when she went to coach with the Dallas Wings. Right place, right time, blessed, lucky, all the above.
Okay, so let's go back to the baseball days. First of
Yeah,
all,
sure.
first baseman,
No, pitcher.
pitcher. Okay.
Mhm.
What was your go-to?
I honestly, I didn't really have a go-to. I mean, I would just use my height to my advantage. One in a slider, more like a cutter. But I was a reliever my whole career, so I learned how to maximize those two pitches to the best of my ability. So that's kind of how I stuck in the game for a long time.
Nice. So much talk, especially like recently, I feel like about
Hmm.
like kids specializing in a sport versus
Yeah.
like playing multiple sports. Do you have
Hmm.
a strong opinion on that, being a multiple sport athlete?
Absolutely. I think you have to have the opportunity to play multiple sports. And my mother was that way growing up. She was so adamant that I try every sport, regardless of what the sport is, just try it out, just to see if I would like it. And I think that's what the generation now should be doing, because if you stick to one sport, let's say basketball, which we're all in, for a whole year, year after year, say when you grow up grassroots all the way up, you're going to get burnt out at some point. And it's tough. And once those athletes hit the burnout phase, especially us on the women's side, they gravitate towards something else because various reasons. So I really think trying to play multiple sports, and even if you're not very good at it, it's just you're learning different movements, learning different dynamics. But what's most important is you're learning that team camaraderie, that team atmosphere in a different setting than you're used to. So and you create great relationships that can be lifelong relationships as well.
Yeah, I think you also learn how to like compete because
Hmm.
your skill set might not be as good in a different sport, but you
Yes,
still got to figure out how to contribute. Uh,
exactly. And that's
so
always the toughest, especially if you're really good at one sport and then you try another. You're going to do as much as you can to try to be at the level of your peers. So just trying to help in any way. And maybe, thinking back on it now, you can learn how to be a role player in that second sport. So if you do happen to play in college and you're a freshman, you're not the best player anymore. Now you can learn your role. You can kind of be a more dynamic teammate and team player, and that can just help you out down the line throughout your life.
for sure.
Mhm.
Um, okay, tell me about the what drew you to the women's game and why you got that first experience coaching and
Yep.
instantly felt like it was a good fit.
Yeah, I really think my sister played growing up, so I was always around her for the most part. And basketball has been a huge part of my life. But honestly, growing up in Connecticut with UConn women, it's really for everyone knows, you can see it from the outsider's perspective. Oh, they're great, they're fantastic, but it's just like when you wake up, it's UConn basketball. So going to games with not only my mother but my grandparents, and really growing up and watching them progress, watching them grow, and just idolizing those athletes. I remember one game that we were at. I forgot where it was. I think it was a Connecticut Blizzard. That's an old school. Used to be a professional league before the WNBA. And Nikisha Sales and man, I can't remember who the player was, but they were in the stands and they weren't playing for some reason. And I just walked up to them, got their autograph. I still have the hat at my mother's house. But that's how big of an impact they had on my life growing up. And it's not just a male thing and it's not a female thing. It's basketball. And that's what I love so much about it. And that's why the state is so great in embracing both the men's and women's side. But just getting the opportunity to get to high school and go to my alma mater and feel comfortable again, which I hate feeling comfortable. But I knew the head coach. I grew up with her. I went to high school with her. I knew everyone still in the high school, so it was a great fit. And I just wanted to make an impact in their lives. And if I can help them grow to play in college, that'd be great. But I just wanted them to learn the right way to grow as young ladies and to really be impactful wherever they go after high school.
Okay, and you mentioned Coach
Mhm.
Taj Franklin earlier.
Mhm.
Talk a little bit more about like the impact.
Mhm.
First of all, like what made her unique and so good at what she did, and then the impact that she's had on you.
Yeah. The first thing that comes to mind is she never slept, honestly. So we would have our 5:30 practices, and I get there around 3:30 in the morning. She'd show up at 4. It's like, "Hey, coach, I just sleep." She's like, "I didn't sleep." I'm like, "Oh, it's gonna be one of these days." So But she was consistently and constantly basketball oriented. And that's something that really struck a chord with me, because we can also talk about other things other than basketball. Because when we're so laser focused on basketball and you don't have another outlet, especially with your head coach, I think that creates a lot of issues. Because if it's, once again, basketball, there's going to be a time that you do get burnt out. But we had very similar personalities. We joked around a lot. We joked around with each other. We liked a lot of the same things. Once again, wrestling and food. We were both foodies, so especially fast food. So hopefully my players aren't watching this. But we just clicked right away, and I think that's what I value so much. She's given me so many life lessons other than basketball that's what I cherish most about our relationship. And we still keep in contact now. And she was with the Wings for a year. She's now in the WNBA corporate office. But once again, it's just the relationship that we built together. We were with each other. It felt like 24/7. So she could have gotten sick of me. I could have gotten sick of her. But it was genuine, organic. We had organic conversations. Nothing was scripted. And I truly think that's why, I love her so much. And that's why she's made such a big impact on my life.
Okay. And then she leaves you. She up and leaves you.
She rolled out.
And you get slid over an office and a chair into the head coaching position.
Right.
So how was that transition for you?
Hard. I don't think you can ever prepare for it, especially, not being a head coach prior. But, she spoke with our athletic director, our administration, our president, and she said, John's ready for the job. And I knew she was genuine, because if I wasn't, she wouldn't promote me, because that's her reputation on the line. So that truly meant a lot to me, and how she, did everything she could to help me along the way. But once she left right after the season to prepare for the WNBA season. I had to do all of our workouts, individual workouts solo. And I was the only assistant on staff. We didn't have a volunteer. So I really had to show my worth through those 2.5 months. And thankfully I was elevated to head coach. Now, as I said earlier, luck, who knows what else, I think, my background helped a little bit, but Taj's recommendation, as well as us always being in the office and working towards our craft and bringing in the right type of student athletes that fit what Post was about, really helped me get that position. So it was a tough transition. It was hard. Taj was always there in any way possible. But, when you're sitting there on an island by yourself, you're really trying to figure things out on the fly. But once again, I think it was a hard transition. But now I've learned so much from that.
Yeah, and obviously you've done a good job with it. You guys went from, I think, don't quote me on these numbers, but I think 8 wins to 14 to 22 wins.
Right.
What kind of factored into that, increase in numbers each year?
Praying a lot. That's a good question. It's really our athletes, our student athletes. I can put the X's and O's together. I can put the plan together, but they ultimately have to execute it. And that's not being cliche and BSing. That's legit. I mean, but it all starts in getting lucky in the recruitment process, but also bringing in the right type of student athletes for our program and our university. But also having a couple that were our, I don't like to say the remainder, but the returners from the year Coach Taj was here that bought into what I wanted to do. And that is so vital. You have to have 2 or 3, in my mind, that truly buy into what you want and what your vision is for your program. And thankfully I had that. One of our players was a captain for 2 years, and now she'll be our graduate assistant. So that's something for me that meant a lot, that she truly bought in to what we were doing and what the vision was. And we still have a lot left to go, but thankfully it's been on the ascent more so than the opposite.
I feel like a lot of people struggle with figuring out what you were just talking about, how they want to play, what their system is going to be all about, and their program is going to be all about.
Right.
Did that take you time to figure out, or were you pretty clear in that?
No, that took me a long time. I thought, this is me. I was like, yeah, we're going to run the Coach Knight motion, the Coach Knight man-to-man, and then we're just going to roll out. And I tried to instill the motion, And I'm like, I don't know if this is going to work because our IQ was all across the board. For a few it did, for a few it didn't. But I scrapped that right away. I was like, oh, we can't run a 3-out 2 in motion. So we scrapped that. We do run our man-to-man with a little bit, a couple different principles for the most part. But no, we run a matchup zone. Have I ever thought in my entire life I'd run a matchup zone? Absolutely not. Have ever thought I would just run, horns play specifically? Absolutely not. But it fits our personnel, it fits our athletes, and it puts them in the best situation to succeed. So that's why we've run it. We've had success. Who knows what happens next year? Maybe we'll flip it around. But I think this is a great year to build on, and hopefully down the road, we can continue that success.
Okay, give me your best piece of advice for somebody taking over a program for the first time.
The best piece of advice for it really sacrifice, man. That's the biggest word. I think that's been my word for the past week or so. Because when you move one seat over, the whole perspective changes. It changes, honestly. You go from the cool assistant who can have great conversations and they can lean on you. Yeah, go talk to coach. Now it changes. So now you have to make the decisions that sometimes aren't the right decisions to others, but in your mind, they are the right decisions. So you have to really go out on a limb and trust what you want for the vision of your program. And as much as it hurts inside, if that's what you truly believe in, you have to do it. And I always say, I feel like from the old movie Young Guns, going down in a blaze of glory, if I'm gonna, as we say in this business, you're either going to get fired, you're going to retire. If I'm going to get let go, I'm going to do our offense, our defense, and I'm going to do the best to my ability. And if it doesn't work out, we'll figure it out after the fact. But I don't want to have regrets and say, I should have done this, I should have done that. I'm fully invested in what we're doing and the type of student athletes I want a part of our program and we want a part of our university. But yeah, I'm going to go all out, and if that means we got to run a 1-1-1-1-1 press, hey, we're going to rock it out one day. So maybe I'll be an innovator of that.
There you go. I'm looking forward to seeing how that plays out. All right, great stuff, John. Last thing, without giving me the political answer that you're going to first go to, is ultimate goals for you. I know you're happy at Post. I know it's the best school ever, and you want to be there your whole career. Yeah. But whatever, 10 years from now, what's your ultimate dream, scenario?
I don't know. I really don't know. I don't have a dream. I mean, UConn's cool, but but that's where you grew up. I don't know if that's a dream scenario for me. It's, I've always flown on this, the seat of my pants. Is that kind of what it is? Playing, professional baseball all over the country in random places. And I know I talked to Matt about it. He's in Sioux Falls. I was in Sioux City. I've been in St. Paul, Minnesota. I've been all crazy places. I really don't know, and that's something for me. It's, hopefully we can continue to succeed here at Post and put our university on the map. And then down the line, I honestly don't know. I'm not trying to be, just kind of holding back and saying, not what I want to say, but I really want our university to be highlighted. I want us to succeed, and whatever happens really happens.
I love it. Awesome. Well, John, thank you for taking the time this morning. Great job. Like I said, if anybody has any questions, feel free to unmute yourself and ask.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
I just have a question about, I also transferred and was in a program where the coach was it was getting turned over. And we also kind of went through the same, we called them growing pain. Well, the players called them growing pains. We never said that in front of our coach. But how did you as a coaching staff and as a coach, find your system with your players? Were you open about that? And you were like, hey, this is what because I know how coaches, you don't want to necessarily doubt your system that you're putting in, but how were you able to kind of talk about oh, we're going to run the Bobby night this, and this is what we're going to do. And then when that kind of started to not work, were you open about hey, we're going to try a few things, see what works? Or were you this is what we're going to do, and this is how we're going to do it? And then all of a sudden it wasn't working, and just kind of what was your thought process with that?
It's I'm not trying to throw something against the wall to see if it sticks, No, we, with Coach Taj, we had we had a whole play sheet of like 70 plus plays. So I think anything that I did that was simplistic, our players would love, just because there was so much going on, and they were professional style plays. So everything that in the pro game, like that's where I learned the terminology and verbiage from Coach Taj. That was it. But for me, I really think it was, I set the tone right away when I didn't name any seniors captains. And talk about that was a decision that I made that struck a lot of chords throughout, not even only through our program, but the department. And they're like, what are you doing? And how I came across that is that I had individual meetings with our players. I had kind of surveys to see, top 3 candidates. I know some don't like to do this for captains, but I did top 3 players that you would think would be the best captains and top 3 you wouldn't want as captains. So I'm like, man, let me just see what this perspective is. And our seniors were half on the top notch, which should be captains, and the same ones were on the bottom half as well. So I was like, whoa. I said, wait a minute, what is going on here? I said, that's pretty interesting. And I was like, I cannot have captains that are truly liked by half the team and strongly disliked by half the team. So that was my turning point with our program. And I think I really had our underclassmen truly buy in, because it was mostly the underclassmen that, didn't have great relationships with the seniors at that point. But going back to that, it really was like throwing against the wall and seeing what our personnel was. We were very limited with our shooting ability. We were limited with our on-ball pressure. So, right when I tried to throw man and tried to throw motion, it just didn't fit. So I'm always one to adjust and try different things. But no, I didn't have a system per se other than those 3 out 2 in motion and man that we scrapped right away.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you for that.
Good question, Aaron. Any other questions?
Not a question, but I missed part of Omega's, and I just wanted to jump in and give an endorsement to both of these people, because anybody who's watching at a later date, Omega reached out to me right when she got on the site, and John I've interacted with a lot in a lot of these Zooms, and these are both top-notch quality people. So, just a strong endorsement from my side to both of them. I think they're really, really, truly excellent people. Keep doing what you guys are doing, please.
Thank you.
Thanks, Menelik.
I second that.
Well said. Well said.
Thank you, Tommy.
Well, John, Omega, again, thank you for doing this, and great job, both of you guys.
Thank you, Adam.
Thank you.